We are supposed to be government, the government of the kingdom, and the rest of the world will be blessed by the fact that we have established the kingdom. Because this all goes back to Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve were created with the Shekinah glory when Yahweh breathed the breath of life into Adam, and we were supposed to take dominion. But what happened? Eve got seduced by Nahash. She allowed her womb to be contaminated by the genetic code of Cain and Nahash. That destroyed her Shekinah glory, and she lost the Holy Spirit. Now, our people have been suffering under this loss now for 6,000 years. And from the Septuagint, 7,000 years. Okay? Yes, Pure Lily, there are only 12 gates in the kingdom, one for each tribe. We are the kingdom, and the rest of the world is going to be in dominion under the kingdom. That's clearly what the Bible is telling us. But does that mean that the gospel shouldn't be preached to non-Israelites? I don't think so, because they're supposed to be part of the kingdom under our dominion. So we're supposed to teach them how to live properly. And by and large, the white race has done exactly that until very recent times when the Jews in this little season from 1815 have been deceiving the nations, pretending to be Israel, and convincing way too many of our people that they are Israel, okay? And simply disempowering us from our rightful position. Now, everybody agrees that the Jews claim to be God's chosen people, Israel, and they claim that. There's no way I admit that they are. But many Christian Israelites of the Judeo-Christian persuasion believe that they are. So what's the difference between our position and the Jewish position? It's that we say we are Israel, they say they are Israel, but only one can be true.
Well, you know, Pastor, if we go back to 844, didn't the Pharisees claim to be Israelites?
That's right.
And didn't they also claim to be of their father Abraham?
And what did Jesus tell them?
That's exactly true. They were of their father Abraham, okay?
Through Esau.
You see, you can be of Abraham's descent, you know.
So are the Arabs.
Israelite, because you can be an Edomite, you can be an Ishmaelite, you could be a Midianite.
Right.
And there's 5 other sons besides Midian. You could be any of those, okay? But you're not of the chosen seed through Jacob, okay? And that's the part that they couldn't get. You know, they said, "Well, we're Abraham's seed, but we've never been a captive." Well, that gives it away right there,
right?
Because Israel has been a captive. So
right.
I just thought I would just
twice already, yes. And so John 8:44 completely exposes the Pharisees. Now that word translated generation, when he says they're generation of vipers, that word generation comes from the Hebrew. I forget now whether it's sperma or ethnos, but in either case, we're talking about a race of people, okay? A seed line. We're not talking about the people who just lived in that time. And the proof of that is when he says that they are guilty of, that their race, their generation is guilty of the murder of Abel, okay? So he's talking about their entire race because that group of Pharisees standing before him in 33 A.D. could not possibly be called guilty of the murder of Abel because he existed 4,000 years previous. But their race certainly is, okay? Verifying they are a race of vipers. That's what he's telling them. They are a race of vipers. They're the descendants of Cain, okay? So understanding the reality of the racial divide between the Israelites and the non-Israelites of this time, it is impossible to argue that that the non-Israelites should be considered one with the Israelites. No, the Bible clearly distinguishes between Israelites and non-Israelites throughout, from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22. Absolutely. Okay? Yes, reptilians. Okay. But I forget who that British author is who argues that we're being the conspiracy is being run by reptilians. He simply refuses to acknowledge them as Jews because he wants to get his books published. He refuses to use the word Jew. Okay, so let's get back here. Let's see if we can figure this out. Verse 11, the woman says to him, "Sir, you have nothing to draw with, and the well is deep. From where then have you that living water?" Verse 12, "Are you greater than our father Jacob, which gave us the well, and drank thereof himself and his children and his cattle. Okay, so she is claiming to be an Israelite. Okay, verse 13. Jesus answered and said to her, whosoever drinks of this water shall thirst again. If you drink literal water, it's only going to satisfy you for a short time. You're going to get thirsty again. Verse 14, but whosoever drinks of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst. But the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life.
Pastor.
Yes.
Was that offered to the other two
No, it was not.
women?
No, it was
not. Did he offer them the living water?
Right. Well, now, but again here, it says whosoever, it's hypothetical. He's not saying you, he's not saying to her, if you drink this water that I offer you, and it does sound like he's offering it to her, okay?
But see, we have to say, he didn't even preach anything close to that type of a sermon to the other two women. He called them dogs and was raised.
Right. No, I'm acknowledging that. No, he did not call this woman a dog. Let's go on here. Verse 15. The woman says to him, Sir, give me this water, that I thirst not, neither come here to draw. Now, before I go into verse 16, I want to still say, she's quoting. She's being quoted here. The woman says to her, Sir, give me this water. Now, do you have to be an Israelite to request this water? I mean, you can request it.
No, because you see, you're requesting what was offered to you.
Exactly. Now, he said to the previous two women, no, I'm not going to give you this water.
That's what he said.
I'm not going to give you this food. It's intended for Israelites exclusively, okay?
And he gave the crumbs.
Right. And they have to accept the crumbs that the dogs eat, okay?
Now this woman, she didn't get just the crumbs. She got the whole banana, as they say in some circles.
Well, let's see. Let's see what, so let's go into the next verse. Now, this gets very interesting. Jesus says unto her, Go, call your husband, and come here. The woman answered and said, I have no husband. Jesus said to her, You have well said, I have no husband, for you have had 5 husbands, and he whom you now have is not your husband. In that said you truly. What is Jesus actually saying here? Well, let's go into the history of Samaria. When the Israelites were first taken captive in 745 BC, who was the nation that took the Israelites captive? Gary, you should know this. Okay? Who? What nation took the Israelites captive?
Say that again?
Which nation took the Israelites captive in 745 BC?
Assyria.
Assyria, absolutely. So the first husband she had was Assyria. The first husband that Samaria had was Assyria. Okay? The second husband she had was the Babylonians. Now, between and after both the Assyrian deportations and the Babylonian deportations, the Canaanites moved in to the territory of Samaria, taking over the city of Samaria and much of the territory. And these were primarily descendants of Shelah. Now, I know you know this, Gary. Who was Shelah? Are you there? Hello?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Just a minute. I'm just doing something. I'll be right back.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll just answer the question for him. Shelah was a descendant of Judah by a mixed marriage, folks. He had married a Canaanite woman, had 3 sons, 2 of whom were killed by Yahweh himself, but he declined to kill Shelah. And these Shelahites are, in fact, the people who formed the nation of Samaria.
I'm back.
Yeah. So I'm explaining about Shelah, the mongrelized son of Judah and the Canaanite wife that he had. That these people became the Sumerians.
He was the third son of Judah.
That's right.
Okay, you had 2 more, and one of them's name was Odin. I can't remember what the other one was.
Yeah, and Yahweh killed both of them. Okay, however, leaving Shelah. Now,
that was the son that was supposedly promised to Tamar that she never got.
Right.
And if you go back and read other articles, you'll find out that the mother, which was a Canaanite mother, took Shelah off because she didn't want to see him die because she knew what was going on.
Right. And so, what we have here is a mixed breed nation of Sumerians. Okay, so the first 3 husbands that the woman of Samaria had were Assyria, Babylon, and the Canaanites through Shelah. Okay, then came the Greeks, and then came the Romans. Okay, And with the Romans came more Canaanites because the Romans were influenced by Antipater and Herod and many other Canaanites that came into Jerusalem and into Judea with the Romans. Okay?
Pastor, there's one thing that maybe might refresh some of the people's mind is we have Herod sitting on a throne as king, and how did he get there? Was his dad, I think it was,
Antipater, yes.
came in and killed John Hyrcanus.
Right.
And then took the throne from him. In other words, John Hyrcanus, like we do, allowed the Edomites to come in because they're going to accept Jesus. And it's like us, and the next thing you know,
they're going to pretend to accept Jesus, yes.
Then they turn on us, and they end up taking the throne. And that's exactly what they've done in this country. They've done it to Israel every time.
That's right.
Israel's allowed them to lie to them.
Every time we race mix, it's that Jewish insistence that we race mix with other people, and our people are dumb enough to do it.
Now, what they do, they end up taking over Israel. They take away the throne from Israel, and they take it. And this is what happened with Herod. He flat came in and killed John Hyrcanus, who allowed them in.
That's right.
And he said, if you guys get circumcised, in other words, if you accept Jesus, you can come in.
Right.
Oh, yeah, we accept Jesus, no problem. And, you know, when they're in, they kill John Hyrcanus.
Right.
And then now they run Israel.
So these genetic Canaanites, in my opinion, Gary, are incapable of truly accepting Jesus Christ as the Messiah because they know that they're not Israelites. They're Edomites. They're Canaanites. They're Kenites. They know that that the living water wasn't meant for them, but they're trying to steal it from us to prevent us from gaining the kingdom. And the only weapon they really have is deceit. And they have hornswoggled, to use a Corey Twig term, they have hornswoggled the white race by telling us that they're God's chosen people when we are. And haven't they done a masterful job of deceiving us?
Well, see, the thing that we have to remember, when they say that they can trace their lineage right back there, they're not lying.
No.
Because they can. Because, I mean, they're Edomites. They can trace their lineage right back there. That shouldn't be new to anybody that reads the Word of God.
And they know they're Edomites. The Jewish Encyclopedia says Edom is in Jewry.
Yeah. Now, why is it when a Judeo-Christian reads that Edom is right there, and then they have a Jew coming up to them, they know spits on his name, says, well, I'm from there, you know, and they have a problem with that. No, because they told Jesus that, Jesus, he says, yeah, but you're of those guys.
Yes.
Yeah, we know you're here. We know you were there. You weren't of us.
Now, here's what the rabbis today teach. They teach that the Palestinians are Amalekites / Edomites, and they claim to be Israel. Of course, we know that that's a lie. We know that the vast majority of Jews are actually Ashkenazis. 90 to 95% of them are Khazar Jews who not have a single Shemitic ancestor in their bloodline. Okay?
Well, they could have Shemitic because from what I've read, the Khazars or Esau,
they're partly Hittites, which means that they have Esau's blood too.
Yeah.
Just like the Pharisees, yes.
So they were up in there. In other words, a horde of them followed.
Right.
And I think also the...
and they're also partly white. They're partly Japhethite.
Now, some of the Assyrians were mixed in there, and the Philistines.
Yes.
And because it says the Philistines would chase us westward.
Right.
Okay, so they were up in there, and that was where they settled. When they talk about Russia, Gog and Magog...
Hey, Gary... San Diego is as far west as we can possibly go. Actually, there's Hawaii.
Go too much further and your hat will start floating.
That's right. If you go much further west, you'll be east. And yes, Yahweh hated Esau. There's 2 books. In fact, if you really read all the minor prophets, especially Obadiah and Zechariah, tell us very succinctly and plainly that the Edomites will be destroyed. They will be burnt to a crisp. And Zechariah, the very last verse of Zechariah says, there will be no more the Canaanites to mess with the children of Israel. And Matthew chapter 13, the the parable of the wheat and the tares. He says, who's going to be reaped first? The tares. The tares are going to be reaped when their black heads stick out over our heads, and we're seeing that happen right now. Aren't we seeing Jews? We have 17 Jewish senators. Every single appointee to public